so glad we got Josh Phelps here because Paul and I could not do that. Probably best. Folks, now the reason that everyone's come out this evening, I'd like to introduce a man that you all know and probably needs no introduction, but I think it's important to note one thing. And he's probably tired of hearing the story, but how many of you are tired of those who represent us in Washington or politicians that just won't be honest with you? How many are tired of those that will tell you one thing and then go do something else and think that you just need to accept it, that you're just, it's not true? When Dr. Coburn was running for Senate, he walked into a room of senior citizens and he said, look, we can't afford this. We're going to cut Medicare and cut Medicaid. We're going to rein in spending and take care of Social Security. And if you don't like it, don't vote for me. No politician has the courage to do that, but he had the courage to be honest, to treat us like his fellow neighbors that he respects, and we thank him for it. And we're honored to have him here tonight. Please rise and join me in thanking and welcoming Dr. Tom Coburn.
First of all, let me thank Paul and all that have been associated with this. This is the answer to our problem. We have a government today that is out of control, that is spending money that we don't have on lots of things that we don't need, and we have allowed it to happen. One of my favorite sayings of Ronald Reagan was the following: freedom is a precious thing. It is not ours by inheritance alone. It is never guaranteed. Never. It must be fought for and defended by each and every generation. He wasn't talking about our military. He was talking about us. And where we find ourselves today is a consequence of taking our eye off the ball and not paying attention to what is happening in the highest reaches of leadership in our country. I want to tell you a story. Some have heard it before, but it's important that we mix not just our effort and our education, but we mix our faith with how we fix our country. There was a little boy who had asked his daddy about getting a baby sister. And he said, Daddy, I want a baby sister. And of course, he was only about 3.5 years old. And Father didn't know quite how to answer the question. He said, well, son, on these important issues, you need to pray. And so that night at prayer, when he put him to bed, he prayed for a baby sister. The next morning, he comes leaping out of the bed downstairs wanting to know where his baby sister was. And the father didn't have a good answer. And so he said, well, sometimes you have to pray a long time for what you want. So same story again. That night, praying, asking God for a baby sister, comes bounding down the stairs the next morning. Where's my baby sister? Son, sometimes you have to pray a long time. Well, about 15 months go past. And in the middle of the night, this dad gets this now 5-year-old boy out of bed, takes him down to the hospital, and there lies his mother. Under her right arm is this beautiful newborn baby girl. And under her left arm is its twin, newborn baby girl. And he looks at his mama, and he looks up at his dad, looks back at his mama, and then asks his dad, lean down, he said, Daddy, aren't you glad I quit praying after 2 nights? That's a component of what we have to. Our founders were people of faith. They weren't just people of intellect. Faith had a lot to do. I have faith that we can change any problem in front of us to make it positive for our country. We can do that. But it requires us to do it. It requires you holding us in elected office accountable. Not some of the time, not part of the time, but all of the time. Which means you have to stay informed. And that's what Paul and his group and many others here tonight are all about. Our problems are very, very serious as a nation. Our debt will swamp the future of our children if we don't do something about it. The heritage of our nation is a heritage of sacrifice, whether it's our military and foreign wars or individuals working an extra job to create an opportunity for education for their kids. We have a heritage of sacrifice. And we do not have to go the way of other republics. Freedom depends on initiative and character. Without them, there is no freedom. And the initiative has to be turned back to the American public. And the character is there. And what we need to do is fulfill the responsibility of us as citizens to do the job of holding everyone down to the lowest office accountable to be truthful, to be present, to be available, so that in fact we can have our government. We heard mentioned from the Declaration of Independence in its preamble that to promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. This is in the preamble to the Constitution. And establish this Constitution. The purpose for establishing the Constitution was to preserve liberty for us. We are endowed by a Creator. And we have inalienable rights. Our government does not give them to us. They are a caretaker of them. They are our rights. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And as the federal government has grown, where it now consumes 28% of the GDP of this country, that happiness is at risk, that liberty is at risk, and ultimately that life is at risk. We have to take it back. And the way we take it back is put men and women of integrity and character who understand that their oath is not to a party, their oath is to uphold the manifestations of this Constitution. There is not a problem in front of us we can't fix. It will require sacrifice. It will require leadership. It will require discussion and debate. Our children are worth it. Having delivered over 4,000 babies, the greatest moments for me is when I see that newborn baby, and not just seeing the baby, but I always look up and look at the parents. And in their face, every time, is hope, is a future, is great thoughts about what can be, not what was. Our liberty is important, not just for us, but so that we preserve that liberty and that freedom for that hope, for that future, for our children. We stand at a dividing point in our nation. We will either fix our problems or we will go the way of every other republic in the history of man. The average age, by the way, of most republics is 200 years. They all fail. And they fail over fiscal issues. It does not have to be that way for us. It won't be that way for us. The reason that I've chosen to serve my state is because I see a future in every child out there. And that future is made great when freedom is great. Thank you all very much. Most politicians wouldn't need this screen in front of them to keep things from being filmed.
Dr. Coburn, we have a few questions.